And good evening. Thank you for joining us here at Nocturnal Frequency Radio. And I keep saying to Alex when he is here, radio, we don't do radio anymore. Yeah, we do. We still kind of do radio, but when we have people like Fred Andersson on, we have to have the full effect, the full visual effect, because Fred's a very animated person. I'm just I'm just kidding with you. I just want to thank Kristen Amanda of the ParanormGirl Podcast for filling in for Alex. When we were thinking, actually, Reeves was saying, well, why don't you ask Kristen too? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. I think she'd be a perfect fit. So thanks for joining us and filling in for poor Alex.
No, thank you so much for having me. Big shoes to fill.
No. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. As long as you don't start eating like some burrito or something but you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely. Fred, thank you for joining us again, my friend. It's always great to have you. Always.
Yeah, thank you. I always, this is the only show where I'm actually up at night. Usually I go to bed at 10 in the evening.
Yeah.
Every evening, and now it's midnight here in Sweden, so it's like 2 hours after bedtime for me. But it's for you guys.
Hopefully you don't have too much on the plate tomorrow. Then now it's tomorrow there.
Oh no! Tomorrow is Saturday, and I've actually made the decision to. I feel okay. I'm privileged now, but I can work less than usual. So I only work 3 days per week at the moment, which is perfect. So for me, this is just the 3rd free day now, basically, where I'm just writing, watching movies, taking walks. So for me, this is perfect. Actually, this night here in Sweden is perfect because I'm for once relaxed. I'm not stressed, and
And if anyone knows you love your movies,
yes.
you love your hikes, because you love finding you find very interesting things on your hikes. I always say that because you go to places and you go, look at this, and it's like, Fred, how do you find these things? I mean, I'm sure you do. Obviously, you do your research, and because that's what you were doing with a couple of the shows that you were working on. You were like a content editor sort of thing, right? So and you were scouting locations and stuff like that. So this is something that's like ingrained in your brain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in my hiking videos, which no one watches, but they're quite okay, I think. I usually just here's the thing, and I've said this before. I live in the most, we have the most ancient remains, rune stones, grave mounds, etc., here in this area. It's so much of it, so you can basically just go in any direction, go to the nearest little forest or group of trees, and you'll find a Bronze Age grave there or something like that. We have one outside the window, basically, just meters away, for example. So we have stuff like that everywhere, and it's so fun to, when you know that in this area you will find a stone with cup marks, for example, or a rune stone, and you go there and you explore, because I love exploring. I've been thinking a lot about forest roads today. These dust roads, these gravel roads that go through forests, and you have no idea where they lead. They can lead to some fishy storage somewhere, or some deserted house, or just fields, and it's a treasure hunt after beautiful and historical things in this area. So sorry, I've been thinking a lot about these roads today, so I should just I you can turn into a lot of woo-woo and mumbo-jumbo when I talk about forest fires.
I did just watch I can't remember when you posted it. I think it was a few months ago. One of your videos where you were exploring the mounds and you
Yep.
had the big stones and you were talking about the etch marks, and they're just fascinating. I've never really thought that deeply about mounds before. I actually don't really know what they are, what they're used for, and why they're so spooky.
Yeah, exactly. In Sweden, they can be graves, but not all of them. There's many of them that they haven't found any indication of, human remains or something like that. So probably they were just some kind of holy place. You entered the mound, you went on top, had fires or whatever. No one really truly knows, because it's it's a long time ago. But those that are built with visible rocks are often graves, for example. But we have something. You probably find it in other parts of the world. It's like triangular shaped. I wouldn't call it mounds, but it kind of feels like some kind of prehistoric structure of some kind, but very clearly a triangle, which I find very fascinating. That I have absolutely no idea what it is. It can be anything. It could be a camping area or something. I don't know.
But there was one that you did come across that has, like you mentioned, stones, and these stones were quite unique, right? I mean, did they not have carvings or something on them, or symbols?
I've been looking at so many of these sites now, so I'm not entirely sure which one you mean. But you often find a rune stone. Not often, but you can find rune stones in connection to these areas. But the rune stones, I don't know if you know this, the rune stone was more a memorial of dead people. Most rune stones were actually made after Scandinavia was before Christianity. It was made after Christianity came here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and when the church came, people were forced to bury their family at graveyards, specific graveyards in connection to the church. So before that, they buried them on their own, ground, on their own land. So when they couldn't do that, they made rune stones and put these rune stones near their houses, for example, with a little memorial to father or brother or sister or mother or something like that. They were also very colorful. Wow. They were like beautiful, but nowadays you just see these rocks with red color. They fill the runes with it. So why am I talking about this? I don't know, but yeah,
because all of a sudden, you said it, you've been revigorated with these runes. Like before, you used to do the hiking videos all the time, and you've kind of taken a break, sort of. You do the odd one, but I mean, like you said, you've been thinking about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it all the time. I mean, I'm getting older. Honestly, I'm getting older. I called myself an old man here earlier before we started, but so I don't have that super energy anymore. But I try to do at least one or two specific hikes where I'm filming each summer now, at least. And I plan to go to a place this summer which is amazing. It's 2.5 hours from here, and you have this old procession, Swedish procession road. They walk, up to a prehistoric huge labyrinth, which is basically stones put on the ground, so you can't get lost in it really. So I'm really, really looking forward to go there and explore that area now.
And this is in Sweden as well?
Yeah, this is Sweden.
Okay.
It's two and a half hour from here. It's still
Okay.
in the region I live.
Okay.
So, and I'm trying to find some good UFO landing spots also to visit, but they're harder to find. They are.
What you're looking for them? So is this like a hint? You're working on another book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
I do. But
Because
the
you always have a book on the go. You have something on the go. So I'm just wondering. I'm just
yeah,
digging a little.
yeah. I mean, my next book will be out in a month or something. I'm just waiting for the test print so
Yeah.
I can check it. I can read it. And it's called Northern Lights: High Strangeness in Sweden,
Nice.
which deals with Swedish high strangeness, mostly UFO cases from the 20s up to the early 90s.
But you
I
have
believe.
quite a few there though, right? I mean,
Cases, yeah, we have. I'm afraid that the culture, this UFO culture, this tradition isn't so. It's still a kind of stigma around it in Sweden. You know, we're
Oh,
very
really?
we're a very secular country, and if you're gonna find something out of the ordinary, it's mostly basic new age stuff and stuff. And but we have UFO Sverige, which is this organization which is very serious. It's also quite neutral. They're not believers and they're not debunkers. They're just curious to
want to know.
they just want to know. So and they're such a fantastic source. They have a beautiful archives for the unexplained, the world's biggest archive about the unexplained and weird phenomena and UFOs and gnomes and ghosts and everything like that. And it's huge and it has everything. So it's very inspirational to live in Sweden because of this, because you have access to this so close nowadays, and we're not many who do this in Sweden either. So you kind of feel like, okay, I have all this power in my hands.
So you're a pioneer.
I'm not a pioneer.
You're leading a new wave, a new movement.
I don't know, because my mind is very, I like the old cases, the old guys in UFO Sverige, they love the old cases, and so do I, because new cases, as it's not so funny, it's not so it's unimaginative,
Do you think exactly, do you think there was like, I know a lot of people here in North America, I'll say Canada and the US, have this sort of feeling that a lot of the classic cases, a lot of the more serious cases were years ago. We're talking probably before the 80s, into the 50s and 40s. And it's like now with technology the way it is, it's not so often, and a lot more things can be sort of, I don't want to say debunked, but explained.
Right.
And a lot more people just, I guess, maybe have lost interest and said, it's stagnant, it's the same old stuff. Do you find that there in Sweden, the same kind of scenario?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that the common person who's interested in UFOs basically just goes after modern ufology. The Pentagon videos, the tiny lights in the skies. There's the high strangeness part of it is lost. And I have a theory why, but it's so mumbo jumbo, so I'm not sure I can.
Yeah, but we like your mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I feel
What's your theory?
that we're living in a culture and a world and a society that's so oversaturated with information. We're bombarded by information from all directions, podcast, YouTube, newspapers, everything, social media, of course, it's everything. And that, I think, have taken a toll on our imagination. because I feel, and I think many agree with me, that what people see, what people experiences, are deeply connected to themselves. So if people in general are exhausted by all the information, what they see, what they project at the phenomena, becomes something far more simpler than before. You know, go back to the 50s and 60s, and the aliens had tentacles and they looked like hairy dwarfs and giants. You know, it was like, what the heck is going on? Nowadays, there's a lot of this, you know, the typical grays, you know, quite anonymous little creatures, just you know, you get what I mean? I think it's
absolutely.
yeah. That's of course if you agree on that the phenomenon is at least partly a projection from ourselves.
So you're saying, are you saying, Fred, that we see what we kind of expect to see? Like it's just a very subjective thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I, of course, that's just a hypothesis. You know, there's no evidence and no tangible proof for that. But I feel that if you read Chuck Vallée and John Keel and such, it's the same thing there. And I lean a lot towards that. You know, because it's I'm so fascinated when people saw UFOs and aliens in the 50s and 60s, and the beings, they looked like, you know, like characters from a sci-fi movie from the time, you know, with helmet and diving suits and stuff, very cartoonish, you know. And that's because obviously because sci-fi movies and that culture was very big at the time, so people had that in mind, and then they saw it. And you have Bet in Barney Hill where I think it was Barney who identified one of the aliens as Nazi looking, like he had a Nazi uniform, for example, etc. You know, it's nothing new. I understand that, but you know, this exhaustion of mankind in general has made our imagination lesser, I would say.
Yeah, we think we know it all now.
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
said, we've been bombarded with so much information. You know, one thing that I've thought over the years about, you know, certain phenomena like, you know, aliens and you know, maybe even Bigfoot, if you will, or anything like that. A lot of these phenomenons, maybe it's probably because we are thinking about tangibility. We're thinking, you know, the human mind likes to think that everything is physical, carbon based, where perhaps maybe these beings or phenomenon are not carbon based, maybe frequency based, you know, something that relies on a certain frequency level, or to that matter, where they don't materialize, but they are there, and we don't know that they're there because we don't have the means to understand that they're there right now currently. I don't know.
Ooh, that's good.
Definitely. You know, it's I don't have an intelligent follow up to that, Steve. Sorry, but yes,
okay.
Well said. You know?
I mean, you constantly hear about people. Oh, you know, where's all the good evidence with you know, UFOs or aliens or Bigfoot? Nobody's got some great evidence. Everything's so blurry and everything's so, you know, poorly lit or whatever. And of course, you have the people that review this stuff and sit there and go, well, it kind of looks like it might be an airplane, you know, or a helicopter, or, you know, like I was, you know, we did a show not too long ago on a Canadian incident here where somebody had taken some video of a you know, UFO landing, and basically because it wasn't like it was shot on VHS. So we're talking about the late 80s. I think it was late 80s, early 90s. And they're like, well, the video footage sucks. It's horrible. And well, what do you want? It's video. I mean, the cameras back there were 4K.
Mhm.
How come we can't get this stuff on 4K?
Well, I mean, you hear this theory half jokingly from time to time that the phenomenon kind of avoids us by making itself blurry, for
Mm,
example, or that's why you rarely have a clear Bigfoot photo because the being itself is blurry. You
yeah.
know, I I was I wrote an article a while ago called "The Trickster on a String," where I was talking with my partner about the so-called falling leaf movement. If you
Mhm.
look at in especially old UFO books,
Yeah.
almost all UFOs had this movement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
don't see that nowadays. Why did that disappear?
The technology's gotten better, Fred.
No, well, here's what my theory comes in.
Yeah.
It's connected with blurry Bigfoot. So
Okay.
imagine you're outside, you're having a walk, and you see this really cool UFO flying
Mm.
around up there, and you happens to have a Super 8 camera with you.
Yeah.
We're talking 60s here. So you take this camera and start filming it, and what ends up on the film or is actually what you see is the phenomenon wanting to be seen, but it hides itself by looking like a crappy miniature UFO hanging on a string. So it's dangling a little bit like this on the
Mm.
string.
Mhm.
So the phenomenon fools us. It wants to be seen, it's there on film, but when everyone looks at it, they feel this is just a fake UFO film. This is a miniature UFO
What,
on a
like
string.
Plan 9 from Outer Space?
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
dishes?
Yeah, exactly that one. Exactly that one.
Oh.
So you know, maybe it's all maybe everything is a trickster. In this, I think it's just weird. People see and experience so much, and there's so little proof for it.
I have heard that. I'm so sorry. I've heard that comment that you just made about the trickster, this trickster element, multiple times with the UFO phenomenon, and also with if you go back in time to old folklore like fairy phenomenon, dwarf, leprechaun
Mhm.
phenomenon, that trickster element that is kind of consistent throughout. But you're absolutely right. There is a bit of trickery. It feels like.
Yeah, and I also feel at least those cases I've been looking into, and some of the more famous American and English cases, what's happening there feels like a game. It's you have it's like you say, it's gnomes and dwarfs, and then behaving funny and weird, and people just look at this and thinks, what the fuck, what is this, and they and they report this, and everyone one laughs at them. So the phenomenon if it is a trickster, it's can be kind of mean, I think, in that way, because it's probably created a lot of tragedies. But yeah, who knows? I mean, you can just speculate on this subject, but that's what's fun also.
But it's an interesting topic. I mean, you can, as many people out there who might be exhausted talking about UFOs and whatnot, there's always the overwhelming amount of people who are intrigued, who are just like, I want to know. I mean, come on, we live in this vast universe, and the thought that we're the only people in it just doesn't make sense. So I mean, to me, I really do believe there are civilizations out there, and probably a lot more advanced than we are. um and if that's the case, then why are they coming here to explore? Because we are a living planet, maybe, and they want to see what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a very good question. Why are they coming here? Especially if they're an external race of aliens from some other solar system or something. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're just curious. They had the chance to see something from the beginning, see, how will we handle this, or as Charles Fort said, that we're just property of someone. So
Exactly,
that's a sinister thought.
And that's what I was going to get at. I mean, the possibility that we often talk about gods and so on and so on. Could the gods, if anything, handed down through lore and religion and all this, could they possibly be the creators? Are the creators people from another world?
Oh,
I mean, it's been talked
Fred?
about often. So I mean,
yeah, Kristen, come on, it's your turn. No,
I mean, that is one of the theories, and
Mhm.
I'm not certain because I have not studied it myself, but like I think that goes into ancient alien theory and stuff like that, whether maybe these are in fact the creators. But you can go further than that. I mean, are they creating a simulation? Like, is it simulation theory? Is it, what's really going on here? That was weird. Sorry.
Nothing's weird here.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Ancient Aliens. I like the first season because there are a lot of nice drone shots over nice locations and stuff. But I'm raised on Erik von Däniken books. The guy who made the subject so popular in the 60s with Chariot of the Gods, etc. And I love those books as a teenager, a young teen. And I still have, I think I have all his books, and I collect them every time I find them at the second-hand store or something, some old Swedish print. I buy them because I enjoy reading in them still. The good thing Erik von Däniken did was that he put some, I would say, sometimes very needed imagination into archaeology, or pseudo-archaeology maybe in this case, but he dared to be outrageous in a subject which rarely is outrageous. But on the other hand, I can agree on the criticism Ancient Aliens gets, because why wouldn't these ancient people be able themselves to construct and design these temples and pyramids? And it's kind of, I don't want to take that away from them. There's always some Nordic alien landing and telling them what to do. I think they did it themselves. That's not saying it's a mystery around them, because there are mysteries. Many of these temples and structures, and I mean, I love it. I love it.
What because I know we'll go on to some other stuff, but I mean, with the UFO sort of segment, Fred, why are you so interested? What interests you the most with the whole UFO bit? Because I know you dive pretty much into it. You really go into it.
I can be long-winded and pretentious here, but it's sorry, I will take some water first. I think it's the mystery itself that attracts me. It's a mystery. I'm when I was a kid, the only thing I read was detective novels. Who is the whodunits? Who is the murderer? And that was a mystery to be solved. And that kind of attracted me with von Däniken when I was young, and UFO books and cases, because there's obviously very, very normal, rational people who see and experience extraordinary things. And what is that what is it? The mystery. I that in general, I like all kinds of mysteries, but the the UFO lore is so full of fantastic stories and wild stories and weirdness. There's so much to dig into. And also, of course, the connection with the older folklore, and like you mentioned, Kristen, fairies and gnomes, and it's it feels so connected, and it's fascinating how that has been obviously following the human race up until now. With the exception, my friend Book, who have a podcast called Tracing Owls, said that because they're cutting down the forests, and the people are moving to the cities, so we kind of chased the monsters out from the forests and up in the sky instead. So
yeah.
100 years ago they saw a gnome in the forest, now they see a light in the sky. And then I can go back to country, forest roads, because I feel that the only true, real, honest place for weirdness is nature, the forest, because it's you can go out and nothing happens, and you will be, it's magnificent. You will feel something, and that's so magical. Oh, you see, now I'm rambling away. I have no idea where I started.
You're not rambling. You're not rambling. We can understand you. That's fine.
That's good.
But I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned, forests and the connection. And again, this is something that has been going on since the dawn of man. I mean, being a part of these areas, these forests, the nature, if you will, and again, it harkens back to when we as people, back then had so much more abilities that we've lost over the years due to domestication and all that kind of stuff, through filters and everything. You often hear about sixth sense and all that kind of stuff. How animals, for instance, are able to sense things even before we are. Like we're talking about, hours before. Weather patterns, and we're sitting there going, why are they acting so weird? But it's because they have that ability still, something that we've never been able to retain. I mean, maybe some people do have that ability to a certain extent in other ways, but us, we've lost that. And I think maybe that is something we've lost too, the ability to make contact with these other beings, if you will.
Yeah. I don't have any. You sound so smart today, Steve. I love it.
Thank you.
No, no, it's but yeah. I mean, sorry, I'm so silly. Absolutely, I totally agree. Something is lost since way back, and I feel it's all it's the overload of information. It's everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel that a peace of mind, silence, in a way, helps us to connect to these feelings you mentioned, to these senses. But there's so much else going on all the time. So I often tell friends that they should, if I see that they're stressed, or they say that I'm stressed, and they say that they're stressed, sorry, I always tell them to be alone. Try to stay alone for a weekend at least, so you can land in that. I think it's the best thing. No, it's not the best thing you can do. It's of course very subjective, but that's from my experience at least. And I think also that you kind of enhance your feelings and thinking during times like that. I understand it's hard to be silent or alone for a couple of days or a week, but you will get used to it. And I, for one, feel much calmer, after going through this. And I love to be alone. I do. I'm a married man. I share apartments, but whenever my partner is away and I can just be here, exist and do nothing, it's beautiful. And so do he think, of course, and or else you have the nature to go out to.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something I find myself when I do go for long hikes, and I'm, yeah, again, in the alone in a forest or whatever. I'm often thinking about the possibilities of finding something very unusual. And when I do find something, like, it's amazing when you stumble across something like here. I found on top of a mountain, like it's not a huge mountain, a small mountain, like a it's not quite a full circle mound, but it has an entrance to the mound, and the mound is made out of rock, old rock, that's been dredged out of a quarry, um, which is not too far from there. And what's unusual about this mound is the trees. The way the trees are growing, they're growing towards the mound, in towards the mound, almost like giving it like this teepee sort of canopy. And so doing a little bit of research on this place, I found out that in the 70s there was, and of course this is the 70s, and there was the satanic panic, if you will.
Yeah.
There was a coven of witches that were using this particular what was called the Devil's Mound as a ceremonial area to do ceremonies at night, and people were freaked out because, oh my God, what's going on? That they're killing people, they're killing animals. They weren't doing any of that. They were just doing their ceremony, right? Whatever it was, whatever the season was, blah blah blah. And this is in the 70s. So people were quite ignorant to the fact that who these people really were, right? And pegged them as Satanists. They're doing the devil's work, Satan's work, or whatever else. But whatever. The point is, what is intriguing. The intriguing thing about it is, why were they using this area? That area has been there for quite a long time, for as long as I can. I've looked it back, 50, 60, 70 years, even further. I can't even tell you when it came into existence. But it's really weird when you walk there. Just the feeling of being there is very odd, just very different.
I think there is a reason why people gather at places like that, and they build stuff. That people are attracted there. I feel it's the same thing with attractor. It's like a. Both of you have tried random
out. Yes, I have.
Yeah, Kristen, have you done?
I haven't. No.
You mentioned a tractor, like a tractor point, because often during the year when I did random outing the most, which was in the beginning before the app, it always led me to mounds and hills. Stuff that been just around the corner, but I never seen. And then it leaves an attractor point at that spot, and I go there and I find a prehistoric grave mound. It's like, it's
yeah. The idea was that this would generate points of interest that were never really traveled. They're off the beaten road. And in the beginning, I felt it was a great idea. It was really cool, but then it just, I think it lost itself when they began to they got too big, and they it was like, okay, well, we really have to find spots now, and some of the spots are real. Like I remember a whole bunch being generated in the middle of the ocean or in the middle of the lake here.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I supposed to get to that? Oh, wait a second. I take a boat out there. Maybe I'll see a UFO. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's during that year, I found it very, very fascinating, very, very interesting, especially when you put an intention to it and you decide that this is something I want to experience.
Well, I have to thank you for showing me that, because I mean you brought it up. I can't remember where, on your Twitter, maybe in the beginning on your Twitter or whatever. And I'm like, hey, this is pretty fascinating, Fred. What is this? And you showed me, and where to go and all that kind of stuff. And wow.
Yeah. But now, this app, I think, destroyed it totally. It became. I don't want to sound like some gatekeeper or anything like that. It's not about that. It's not that it became so popular, but it became commercialized somehow in a way that felt not good. It felt like what we're doing here is some kind of digital magic, some kind of psychogeography, in a digital magical way, and suddenly it's like Snapchat or TikTok or something like that. But yeah, I think what I got the most from it was that by going these walks, looking at these points, suddenly you became much more aware of your surroundings. You saw things that you never seen before, because suddenly you put your attention to what was around you. You didn't just look into the ground. You actually looked at people. You read stuff. You you saw beautiful trees. And that I carry with me today, even today, because it was so intense during 1 year when I was doing it.
Well, I found the same. Like I said, the first few times that I explored some of the locations that it pointed me in, and I'm like, okay, at first you're like, okay, why am I here? Okay, there's something about this area it's bringing me to, and then all of a sudden you see just the smallest thing, just like it might be a rock. It might be a rock with some sort of symbol on it, or something, just something that just doesn't. Okay, well, people don't walk here. Why is this here, sort of thing? Like I remember it took me to, hey Alex, how are you? He's in chat there. Yeah. It took me to this wood lot. And in the middle of this wood lot was it hadn't been touched. I mean, for years there used to be farmland all around it. Now it's just open cornfields. They still, the people that own the land, they still will grow corn on it, and soya. They bounce back and forth, but whatever. This woodlot itself, you go in the middle of it, and again, Fred, it's like hiking in the middle of this massive forest, even though it's small. And there's the pondage, and then, okay, why am I here? I don't get it. It's just a woodlot. And then all of a sudden I see this mound of old tires. I'm like, what? Why are there a mound of old tires? And they look like they've been sitting there for years. Like, we're talking 40, 50 years maybe. Why are they here? It doesn't make any sense. There's no indication of like a tire center or a mechanic or anything. Why are these tires here? So I'm like, okay, I want to know more about this. And let me tell you, Fred, I told you I'm working on a documentary, right? That is what the documentary is about, what we found. Why there is tires there, and a whole bunch more. There is a lot of stuff going on there.
When is this documentary out? You've been hinting about it before,
I
but
know. It's the footage. I'm very particular with the footage. I'll tell you that. Oh my
Mhm.
God, just I really want to have it done. I want to have it done by October
Yeah.
this year for sure. October this year for sure.
Okay,
And
I will write it down here. So
yeah. But yeah, hopefully October we'll have all the right footage, and we'll have it done by then.
Mhm.
So did you
I
see
have
the
What are you
no,
talking about?
Alex.
I am Alex. I am Alex, you guys. I just let my hair down.
So okay, we'll take a break at 7 there. Okay, so continue on. Like I mean, Fred, you because you're not only writing about this stuff, you've been intrigued with this stuff for a long time. You do a podcast too. I mean, tell the listeners and viewers about the podcast that you do as well.
Well, I'm sorry to say that the podcast is in Swedish, but it
Yeah.
has. So if there are any Swedish listeners out there, you can tune into Märklighetsfaktorn. I've had this now for over 2 years together with Jimmy Beres. Jimmy is also a veteran in the television business here in Sweden. He had his own segment on the biggest newspaper, their website, where he talked about strange animals and mysteries and stuff. So
Yeah.
we kind of hooked up and decided to start a podcast. And earlier today, this morning, we recorded episode 82. Amazing. I don't like bragging, but we at the beginning of 2022 we were up to like 5,000 listens or
That's
something like that.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
but now we're up to 45,000 today. So
Wow.
in a year, basically, we gained so much viewers and we gotten so much positive feedback. And that feels so good because, of course, it's nothing we make money off or anything like that. But it's so fun that people tune in and listen and laugh because it's a quite humorous show. We're talking about the last 2 weeks weirdest paranormal news all over the world. It can be cryptids or UFOs or ghosts or other things. So we talk about them. We read it kind of like a news segment, but way more charming, and then we discuss it. And sometimes we have guests on who's also doing the commenting, and then we're discussing. And it's a fabulous experience, and it's so much fun to do this because it's lighthearted.
Yeah.
We're both serious in our interest with mysteries, but we also feel that you need to be able to laugh at all the absurdities out there because we all know UFOs and cryptids and monsters. It's all absurd. It's bizarre. You need to just look at it with a sense of humor at times.
But I have to say though, regardless, some of the stuff that you've tracked down and shared, that you've covered on there, some really cool stuff. I mean, stuff I like. Oh, I've never seen that before. That's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I'm grateful. I have friends who are quite obsessed by it. Also, for example, AP Strange or Alan Greenfield, the occultist. They always post weird stuff, and sometimes they reaches me. There's, you need. I mean, I've learned through these years to kind of keep my eyes open for stuff that would fit. Sometimes, like today, I must admit, we accidentally do something that's recycled. It's an old news, and suddenly it becomes a new news. And today it was probably the worst, the most blurry, pixelated giant spider video ever shot, allegedly from a security camera, a surveillance camera in Congo. And they say it's a giant spider crawling around, by some lake, but the only thing you see is a couple of pixels moving. But it's fascinating still, it's jungle, it's giant animals. Maybe I believe more in big snakes than big spiders, but there's a lot of Anyway, I'm proud of the podcast, and it's all kind of sad that we don't do it in English. But then again, there's so many other podcasts in English, we feel that we need to do it in Swedish to kind of.
Oh, but that sounds fabulous.
Thank you. It's happy.
I think it. Yeah, well, I think it's great that you do it in Swedish. I mean, like you said, there's enough English sort of content on the subject. It's always intriguing to see what people in other countries, what they discover, because I mean, let's face it, not everything happens over here. There's so much intriguing things that happen around the world that we never capture.
That's true. One of my favorite news this year was actually a Swedish incident. It was an old friend from like 20 years back who tagged me on Twitter. And there was a forest worker who had filmed what he thought was a gnome walking by in the background. And that was, it's not fake or anything. He's filming outside when he works in the forest. And then he looked closer at the video suddenly and saw this tiny figure walking by in the background. So I contacted him, and we used it in our podcast, and it gained some attention because it's a fun video. Maybe it's just a little lady walking somewhere on a trail in the forest or something, but it looks cool. It kind of looks like you have a pointy hat also, like gnomes have here in Sweden. They have pointy hats.
Pointy hat.
Yeah, actually, most of the listener stories we get is connected to folklore, older folklore, like gnomes or fairies or a few ghosts. There's very little UFOs and aliens, but you can get stories about older stuff, that people have seen. For example, Näcken, which is this naked man. He's a water spirit, and he plays the violin by the stream to lure kids into the water so he can drown them, basically. And there was actually a woman who claimed to have seen him maybe 10, 15 years ago. And those stories I love to get, very local stuff.
What's the weirdest, like the most unusual tale that you've come across that you just can't shake? Oh my God, this is crazy.
I think I've talked about it before here on the podcast. It's not a new sighting, but we had a segment on the Volaton Gnomes. We talked about gnomes before here, I remember. The Volaton Gnomes, I think it's amazing. Or the Ninja Dwarfs of Abney Hall. I don't know if I told you about that one.
I'm not sure.
It could have been early 90s or late 80s. There was a martial arts group of teenagers practicing on the grounds of a mansion or a castle in England, Abney Hall. And the first evening they came there, they saw what kind of looked like a foot sticking out from a bush. But it was like, is it pareidolia? It just looks like a foot. Is it a foot? Anyway. Yeah. So they continued to practice there over the summer. And every evening when they came to practice, they saw more and more of this foot. And one day they actually saw a dwarf-like being in a karate suit, with belt. Yeah. Who, and I think it was the evening before, they saw two of these in karate clothes fighting each other. And these beings started to attack the group also.
wow.
Yeah, so they had to abandon it. They had to, there is actually an external witness to this, because the janitor was an investigator who went there to ask about this.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we haven't heard anything, but we had some annoyance with small kids in karate clothes running around, which kind of fits the description of these gnomes or dwarfs or what you want to call them. That's such a bizarre case. It's like interdimensional karate dwarfs.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah.
Title for your next book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great idea.
See? Fred, have you ever heard of puck wedgies?
What?
They're called puck wedgies.
No, I am not sure. Actually,
they're Native Americans were the first to bring the I guess figure to consciousness, and it is there's an area in the U.S. I think it's by Connecticut, or rather
somewhere over there, yeah.
The Bridgewater Triangle, which is houses quite a lot of phenomena, UFO. In fact, I know the mafias use some of the area for dumping grounds. In among other things, there's all sorts of things that have been crazy stuff. But puckwudgies are these little trolls that wreak havoc in areas, and they've spotted them a few times within this triangle, if you will, in other areas, but mostly in this Bridgewater Triangle sort of scenario. And again, you hear about all these different types of trolls and fairies and little people, and I just figured, hey, Fred, have you ever heard of those before? But now you have.
Yeah, now I have. We might have mentioned one case with these in the podcast, but it wasn't described as a yeah, it was could have been that name.
Yeah.
The witness thought, yeah, it could be that, but in the description, it mostly looked like a levitating plastic bag.
Really?
Yeah. I have no idea, because I remember I was reading about what he thought it was and the legends around it, and I couldn't figure out why he thought this levitating plastic bag thingy was one of these beings. But who am I to judge? Of course, if it's his experience, that's the most important thing here. But are these the one who lives in mounds and stuff also, or
puckwudgies?
Yeah,
I think they do, but I don't know if they really understand where they come from. That's the thing. That's the intriguing thing about them. I'd have to look. Oh God, I know, Kristen, you had Christopher Balzano on.
Balzano. Yeah. He's the puckwudgie guy.
Yeah, he knows a lot of it. Like he did. He actually wrote a book on the Bridgewater Triangle, and he's quite informative on that. It's just incredible. But just a really, like, you look into this and you go down a rabbit hole. The Bridgewater Triangle is just crazy. Anyways, we'll take a break here, guys. When we come back, we're going to haunt Fred's dreams even more. Okay, hold on. Let me just load this up here. Okay. I don't know why that started up. You got a live. Thank you for sticking around. Watch Nocturnal Frequency Radio here on our YouTube channel and Twitch. And this will be replayed on the New Visions Radio Network probably this Sunday and throughout next week. So it'll get its radio. Yeah, Fred, when you mentioned earlier about the success that you've found with the show, yeah, it's really cool when something that you do for the love of it, and not really, it's not really a money thing, but doing it for the love of it, and watching it grow. I mean, I know we were the same way when we jumped aboard New Visions Radio and the network there, and we couldn't believe the amount of listeners that came aboard just from going from one format to the next. It's just baffling and humbling, if anything. So I really know how you feel, and keep it up, because people really appreciate what you're doing with the podcast, even though it's in Swedish.
Well, yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. So we'll see where it leads. You know.
And you too, Kristen, obviously with the Girl podcast. Again, you do a wonderful job with that, and this season exploring UFOs and aliens and all that wonderful stuff. Fred, you need to check it out if you haven't,
Yeah.
because she's doing a wonderful job with that as well.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but I don't even, haven't subscribed to it. So I will do it now, actually.
There you go.
Well, I'll pull up my Duolingo and try to do a version in Swedish for you.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm very curious now. You have like guests and stuff, or
I do. Yeah,
what's the
every
thing
other
with
show
it?
I have. What's the theme with it?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
theme, but the thing. Why are you doing it?
Well, each season you do something different, right, Kristen?
Yeah. It all comes from a place of not really knowing what what it is. What's this mystery, and exploring it from. Oh, that's my music. Yeah, and just exploring it from a skeptical believership angle, and just by the end of each season, trying to understand, what do I believe? Is this real? What's bunk? What's what is this? And that's it. That's my thing.
I noticed the last episode is about alien abduction. It
Yes.
says here, which is, I must admit that I never really looked into it so deeply until basically this year. Or, I have books and such, but this year I actually started reading these books to try to. I mean, for me, alien adoption is the typical stories you get from you. You hear people get hypnotized and they tell about their being kidnapped, basically. I find it. I don't know exactly where I stand on it. What's going. I don't know. I don't know really.
Yeah. That was a tough one for me. It was a fun episode to do, just to explore all of the different stories, because you mentioned, I talked about Betty and Barney Hill, and that's a fascinating story, and it's just one of those stories. And when you realize the fallout from something like that, and the investigation that went into it, and the hypnosis, and they took polygraphs, all this stuff, there's really something to be said about a story like that makes you think, well, maybe there is something to it if you never thought that before, which I can't personally say I did. I just really, it was just so weird, the topic of alien abduction. And I'm curious what you think about this. I was going to ask you earlier, because it's no problem to me, UFOs. Like, I feel like we've gotten plenty of proof, especially with things like the Nimitz sighting and the USS Roosevelt. Those videos, as grainy or crappy as they may be to some, that's really good evidence. So I have no problem believing there's UFOs. There are things anomalous in our sky that we just can't explain. and then there's alien abduction, and there's a bit of a spiritual element to it. It's not quite physical. You know what I mean? And I'm just curious, with you and over in Sweden, people who do believe in this phenomenon, which side of the line do you fall on? Do you feel like it's a more spiritual topic? Do you feel like there is a physical element to it? What's the thought?
Well, like I said before, I've basically just this year started to look into it, but of course I read about it earlier also, and I'm leaning heavily towards the idea that it's an inner experience, it's a spiritual experience, and that without taking away the reality from it, because an inner experience can be as real as a real one. If you get, it's just that I I just think it seems very, very complicated to go around and abduct people, and do this surgery on them, operations, over and over again. It seems very, it doesn't, it's not smoothly to do it that way. Smoothly, can you say that smoothly?
Sure, go
ahead. So that's why I feel, it's something from the inside, or it's our consciousness connected to the phenomenon. It can very, very well be, real entities, but I wouldn't say they're material. But I don't know, because I never experienced something like that. So I don't want to disrespect experiencers either.
Have you ever had like something that you've maybe seen, an experience on that level, like maybe a UFO or something like that?
No, I've seen a ghost.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's because I'm not a ghost guy. I'm mostly, monster and UFO guy. So we were shooting a paranormal series, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. And we did a segment at a haunted little house out in the forest. And the owners told me that, we have problems with these ghosts, a black figure out in the garden behind those trees. And moments later, when I'm standing there, I see a very, 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 very clear black being kind of peeks out behind a very thin tree. You can't hide behind it. You saw shoulders, head, you didn't see any details, but it was a clear humanoid silhouette behind there.
A shadow person, maybe?
Yeah, shadow person, it was, you couldn't see through it. It was compact. So that I would say it's the only true experience where I feel myself that this is weird. This is not my typical reality. But my biggest wish is to see a UFO. I would love to walk down one of those country roads in the forest and see a UFO land in front of me there. I would love that. I would love that.
I did have an experience back in, I think it was 2004, and I was driving home from work. I think it was about probably about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So there wasn't a lot of traffic on the road, and the particular road I was taking, was suburban. I mean, it was basically one side was country, almost like, and the southern side was suburban. And I'm not far from Lake Ontario. And for those who may not know, Lake Ontario is seemingly a hotbed for UFO sightings. But I'm driving home, got the radio on, just minding my own business, driving home. And then the next thing I know, I see these strange lights in the sky. And I'm like, at first I'm just not equating to the distance or anything like that. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're just street lights in the distance or something. But then they were moving weird erratically. I'm like, okay, what are these things? So I'm keeping an eye on them as I'm driving, and then I go look at maybe I need to pull over to the side of the road and look at these, give these things, because I mean they're doing some really weird maneuvering. So I pulled over to the next road, do a U and sit on the shoulder of the road, the gravel shoulder, and in front of me is like a traffic intersection. It's not a busy one, but I'm sitting there and I'm watching these things, and I go, well, look at, I have a cell phone, but back then cell phone cameras were just garbage, and I have the footage on YouTube. I could show you guys if you want, but anyhow, the footage is basically what was left over of in the beginning. There was three lights, and they were like going like this, zigzagging, and lowering, and then they'd come up, and then just weird maneuvering and
Hmm.
angles and speed that defies anything I've ever seen before in my life. An airplane, no. Flare, no. It And you get this kind of, okay, it was probably some sort of flare or Chinese lantern,
Drones.
or drones. But back then drones
Mhm.
weren't a thing, right? At least
Right.
not to the mass public. So I mean, it certainly wasn't a drone or anything like that. So I go, okay, well, look at, I maybe I'll zip on home. I wasn't too far from my house, and there I'll grab a handy cam and see if I can capture them on the handy cam. I get home, zip inside, grab my handicap cam, uh, get in the car, and I zip to an area where I have good positioning, overlooking the lake, almost where I'd seen these things. And by the time I got there, they were gone, long gone. But I got word later on that day that a friend of mine, he was going to work about the same time he was going to work, and he had noticed these things too. And he's like, "Oh, wow, those." He went a little bit further. He contacted the local airport. He contacted the local military base. They're not going to disclose anything, but he can figure it out either. And I'm what the heck? It's not. I'm not the first person that has have witnessed these, and basically these objects were almost like orange orbs, and the maneuvering was just out of this world. And it's a phenomena. I know it's a worldwide phenomena, and here, especially above Lake Ontario, it's many people have witnessed it. In fact, I think Alex, in fact, has witnessed something years later. So yes, three of them. But I mean, the footage I have, unfortunately, it's not the best. I mean, you do see one of them hovering in between the traffic lights, but you can't really make out what it is. I mean, it's not the best footage, unfortunately. I wish I had better,
Mm,
but yeah, I mean, that's my experience.
mm.
I'd love
But
to see
So,
that footage, though.
well, I could pull it up if you want. Hold on, let me see. I'll pull it up here and I'll show you.
Did you ever do anything else with it? Submit it to MUFON or anybody?
No, I didn't. I had somebody look it over, but somebody in the know. But unfortunately, like I said, the footage isn't the best. It's not the best footage, and you'll see what I mean when I pull it up here. I'll just let's see. All right, commercials out of the way. I'm not going to bother with the audio because all you hear is my hazards clicking, and it's annoying as hell. Okay, hold on. Okay. So basically, like I said, let me just load it up here for you guys. Okay, So there we go. So there are the traffic lights right here, and a street light here, and cars coming towards me. But here, that little light there is
Hmm.
what we're focusing on. But at this point, it was just like kind of hovering. But here you go. And you can't really make out. But these things were bright, like right down there. There it is, right there.
Were they moving up and down?
They're moving, but like I said, this one at this point was the last one, and it was just hovering, and then all of a sudden it just zipped away. And unfortunately, I didn't capture it with this
Wow.
footage.
Was it?
Oh,
What is it beyond the road there? I mean, is it
It,
because it looks
so
quite low?
it is low, but again, the road here, like this road is elevated. It starts to gradually go downhill into like a not a crevice, but Lake Ontario was huge, and we're talking about prehistoric, obviously. So the decline, it declines into this sort of rounded out sort of um lower level, if you will, before you get to the lake, and it's elevated here. It's low here, but it's actually elevated quite high in the sky. But
Hmm.
because of my positioning, looking towards the lake, it just looks like it's low, but it's actually quite high. Um,
And it was three of them from
there was three.
beginning.
There was three of them in the beginning. This was the last one left, and like I said, I'm going, okay. How much longer am I gonna go before I go home and get a a proper camera? But by then, like I said, I got home and it was just too late, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
mhm.
but there's the footage.
Did you feel that this experience gave you something? Was it,
Well, it
you know?
definitely made me, it perked my interest. Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
Did I just witness something? Um, UFO. I guess so to me. But then, like I said, when I did research and I looked more into it, it was a phenomenon. To this day, it's a phenomenon
mm,
that people all over the world have noticed these things and can't explain what they are. Of course, you get your your skeptics saying, "Oh, the Chinese lanterns or flares or whatever else." No, there's absolutely no way. The way these things were moving, no way. And
mhm.
unfortunately, I
Mm.
couldn't get it there at the time, but
You need always a good camera with you, something that's recording all the time.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah. So
basically.
back then, again, this is like 2003, 2004. Unfortunately, it just the footage was horrible.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
I
you're
mean,
never expecting to capture a UFO, and
yeah,
then you
when you
see
have the
one.
chance, you're like, oh wow, this is cool.
Well, at
So
least you went home and got the camera and got part of it on,
no,
saved.
unfortunately, I
Yeah,
couldn't. That was from my cell phone,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That
that was
yeah,
from the
yeah,
cell phone. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that footage was from my cell phone, and it
But
was just a crap Nokia
mhm.
flip phone back in the day, but it was just oh
But still, it's great because I mean, many witnesses report that they might have a good camera in their hands or in their pocket, but when they see something, they don't care.
yeah.
There's like
Mhm.
this taking an image is unimportant. Suddenly, that evidence is not needed somehow. That I find very fascinating because you read about it all the time how people just don't take photos or film or something. They just look,
Mhm.
they just watch. Uh, some I don't know. I have no idea why. I'm not sure I would do it. If I saw a UFO or an alien or something, I don't think I want to bother with my camera or a cell phone. I want to study the phenomenon directly.
Yeah, like tracing's reiterating your question. How did it make me? How did it make me look? How did it change me? How did it feel and all that kind of stuff? Like I said, it it brought more attention to the fact that there is something going on, and I'm like, okay, I really need to know more about this. And like I said, it's been an ongoing thing. This was only one of many things that I've experienced over my lifetime that has made me cement the fact that there are things that are going on that we don't understand, that we just maybe one day we will, but now we don't. Maybe who knows when. But I mean, yes, there is a lot of mysterious things that are unfolding before our eyes. To many, they would just like, whatever, it's nothing, but it is something. It really is.
Hmm.
I mean, have you
It's
ever
interesting. Mhm.
go ahead, Kristen? Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking it's interesting how lackluster the response nowadays is, because I was thinking about, it seems like we have so much more nowadays, or maybe just more people are paying attention and looking for it and capturing evidence of it. But for instance, with these the three objects that were shot down, set aside the balloon, but the three objects afterwards that were shot down, it wasn't around in the news for that long until most people were like, okay, what's next? We didn't really latch onto it like I thought we would.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to connect to what I said before, I think we're exhausted by information. No one,
Yeah.
a humanoid can land in front of the president, and no one would care probably. Tracing owls here. The question
He's
is,
been in chat.
the question is never what you saw, but did it change you? UFOs are personal phenomenon. Yeah, thank you, Vuk. That's Vuk, my friend from Tracing Owls. He said it much better than me because he's the good boy. He's a good boy.
Here's an interesting.
Yeah.
And I've heard
Wow.
this quite often as well. I've heard about these black. Obviously you kind of harken back to the Phoenix lights, if you will. I don't know if you guys know much about the Phoenix lights.
Yeah.
But literally thousands upon thousands of people witnessed these strange, and at times they saw the outline of this ship and it was triangle like. So I mean, how do you go and explain that? And, the government or what was the army or whatever, they were saying that they were doing some exercises and flares, and there's just no way that those things were flares.
Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, the videos I've seen of it, in some videos, I think it kind of have a flairish idea, something flickering. But there's other videos which, looks a lot more impressive. I don't know. I think it's like, I honestly think it could be, it is what we want it to be. It's more like an archetypical thing or a symbol of some sorts. I'm personally not so sure that it was a giant mothership a couple of kilometers long up there. I don't think so. But it's a very, very cool case. I mean,
it's a cool case. So would you say you're skeptical about it though? I mean, I'm reserved about it. I always have been.
There is something that I feel when I read about it and look at it, that there is something that bugs me and I can't really put my finger on it. Sometimes you just have a feeling about certain things and certain cases. I mean, it's obviously something was flying there. That's we can be sure of that. There was something. But it's a combination of those who actually saw a compact material triangular UFO up there, black, huge, and those who saw flares. And you have witnesses who claim they saw airplanes, and some of them just saw these lights flying alone, not connected to a bigger body. you get it from so many perspectives, and everyone sees their truth somehow. I honestly think we're never going to get an answer what it really was.
You-
It's a mystery, really.
Mhm.
Something that was bothersome about that story was the timeline of events. The Air Force said that they dropped those flares. It was an exercise, whatever, but that wasn't
Mhm.
until much later. I want to say they were doing that around
Mhm.
10.
Mhm.
People started seeing stuff actually like closer to like 7:30, 8,
Mhm.
somewhere around there, like much, much earlier. So that's always kind of stuck in my side a
Hmm.
bit.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
mostly into this Swedish cases, so but I've heard a story in connection to the Phoenix Lights
Mhm.
about a man who allegedly had seen the craft up close, maybe even filmed it or taking photo of it, and then he disappeared. It's a story that's been going around.
I do remember
Hmm.
that, Fred.
uh,
I do remember that story.
uh,
Yes.
and I always wondered what the truth is there. Is there any truth in it? Is it just some exaggeration or something? Because it's been brought up in different UFO documentary series, but I would love to hear more about that specific detail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's quite active there, so I wanted to throw
yeah,
his
his book, his podcast, Tracing Owls, is absolutely one of the best. It's amazing discussions about monsters, folklores, aliens. He's not a fan of UFOs, though. So he's a fantastic person, and I see he's very active. I will try not to read everything he's writing right now.
But yes, the Romans did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
Good point.
I agree, Georgie. I do.
yeah, there's a lot of accounts, historical accounts of strange. I what is it? I think I saw it not too long ago. Somebody post something about hieroglyphs, and the hieroglyphs included what looked like flying saucers
Mhm.
and people coming out of them.
Yeah,
Now,
I think I've seen those too. And now I'm the party pooper again because I don't think they're real.
hey, I love party poopers.
I don't think they're real at all. I get the sense there's someone taking photos of some tourist.
No, I
stuff.
believe I
Yeah.
agree with you, Fred. I mean, that's the problem now. Now that's I guess a lot of the problem now with why we are very skeptical with a lot of things, a lot of cases, a lot of so-called evidence and experiences that people, photographs that people come forward with, and what was his name? I can't even think of his name right now. In Switzerland, well-known a person who had made contact with the Raelians, I believe it was. Oh God, Michael
You-
Horn. Michael Horn was
Oh,
his,
you mean Billy Myers?
Billy Myers. And
Yeah.
again, when you look at his photos and you say, "Oh my God, these are too good to be true," I don't know if you've ever seen them, Christian, or not.
No.
Oh,
I
Billy
know the
Myers.
name Billy Myers, and that's
Yeah.
it.
And we had Michael Horn on years ago, and he was adamant about the photos and I didn't want to be like you, Fred. I didn't want to be a party pooper. But I mean, you could tell they weren't real. They weren't real.
They're I gotta confess that I love Billy Myers photos. They're
They're neat.
clearly
They're great.
They're nice compositions. There's
Yeah.
beautiful forests, and there's extremely stylish photos. But they're, in my personal opinion, 100% fake.
Yeah.
But they look great.
I believe so. I believe so. Was it that I
no.
believe? No.
That's Stan Romanek.
Oh yes,
Uh,
Stones.
Quite awful guy, actually. So, but yeah, Billy Meyer. Check out Billy Meyer, Kristen.
Yeah,
There's
look at his stuff. It's
I
you
will.
know
I gotta see these photos.
the
Yeah.
photos are great. They're amazing. You're like, wow, these are, oh man, these are too good to be true. And of course they
Yeah.
are, but they're really cool photos.
Mhm.
Well,
I
in Sweden then, Fred, I know we've talked about cases that you followed, but I know there's one that you wrote an article about a while ago, a blog and stuff like that. That you quite found quite intriguing, and I think it was a couple witnesses to the case. What was that case again? Do you know which case I'm talking about?
no, I'm not entirely sure, because I written several articles about several landings and
I think this was back in the we're talking, oh god, the 50s up to the 70s, somewhere around there.
mhm.
And it was, oh god, now I can't remember the full
it-
story.
Maybe it was the UFO flap in 1974, where there was a family. There was
Yes, that's the
yeah,
one. Yes.
a great one of my favorite cases, and it doesn't even involve humanoids or especially strange things, but they the Hillevi couldn't reach her parents, so she took her children and drove by car a few kilometers to their house.
Yeah.
And suddenly something glowing in the air was stalking her, flying after it. In that case, it could have been Venus or something like that, so it doesn't matter. They stop by the house and they see this huge ship craft hovering above the forest, and there's like beams coming up, beams, not beans, beams coming up from the ground into the ship over a quarry there. And they escape, and this UFO follows them and starts stalking them, and until it disappears. And there was a lot of witnesses that night, not just the family. There were, I think they had like 72 witness reports of this flying object, which was still unexplained. No one has never found an answer to it, really. Quite magical, I think.
Wow.
Very good point, John. That's absolutely true, and that's the problem. And a lot of people don't like being scrutinized when they present something. They hate it. And I'm sorry, if you can't take scrutinization, you're in the wrong field. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because in the paranormal or UFO or anything like that, you're going to be scrutinized beyond belief. And if you can't handle it, you need to have a thick skin. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I always say that. I mean, I've been interviewing a lot of witnesses, people who have experienced stuff, and I always believe them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if in a couple of years they say, "Oh, it was all fake. It was a joke," or something like that. I will always believe them. If they tell me a story, I need to believe it to be able to understand it and write about it. You can't go and listen to people telling these kind of stories with the notion that they're lying or making it up. You just have to listen. Then you can do whatever you want with it afterward. You can give them money, or you can, never listen to them again, or you just can write it down. As long as when you're listening, when you do the actual listening, you believe it, or at least accept it.
See, and that's another point. And I don't know if you've come across this, Kristen, with your look into the UFO scenario and everything else. There's so many people now who will come forward with their stories and their evidence and all that kind of stuff, as long as there's money involved. As long as there's money involved, I will show you everything that I have for a price. And
I haven't run into that, but
oh, really?
That would not surprise me at all. not at all. And that's what the paranormal in general, you know.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, how about you, Fred? With like you said, witnesses and
no,
have
I never encounter anything like that, but of course, you see people quite naturally who makes money from the subject or talk about things or doing lectures or whatever. And honestly, I agree with Tracing Alls here. Fake things are good.
yeah, the
They serve
Philip.
a yeah, they serve a purpose.
Absolutely. And, it's funny. Person that we've had on the show many times, Matt Williams, is who was making crop circles for years in the UK. He told people, oh, we're faking it, whatever, blah blah blah. But when we're building these crop circles, there is an essence in the air, some strange things that do occur when we're doing this. And it's so true. I mean, the Philip experiment, everybody knows about that, creating your own ghost sort of thing. Same thing. They were there trying to conjure up this, they made this fake profile, and then all of a sudden they started having responses, some sort of activity, and making contact with this Philip, if you will.
Mm. One thing I've been thinking about a lot regarding this is connected, I think, is that people who enjoy and love magic tricks, illusions, the more they enjoy it and love it, and doesn't care what how it's made or anything, they have a higher chance of actually experiencing real magic, real paranormal activity, or because they're open for the impossible. They I think that's also, with the Philip experiment, one reason why they eventually got in contact with this made up ghost was because they started to get more playful and childish. They let go of that adultness, that everything needs to be debunked. Just enjoy it, and then it will happen. Opinions. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it all depends too on how people. I mean, when you're a researcher and you're investigating these cases, of course, I think you have an open mind, where it's if you're going in thinking that something's going to happen and nothing ever does happen, or you go into this thinking, okay, look at, why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden something happens. There's so many scenarios that play out. And we always joke about Alex. I brought Alex to a few places for investigations into a scenario, and he's always said, look at, we call him the ghost deterrent. But it's not to say he's never had an experience. I mean, he's had a couple experiences that he can't explain. Is it phenomena? Quite possibly. Can it be explained? Who knows? But the fact is, he can't explain it. So he's not a complete ghost deterrent. But whatever you do, your chances are lowered if you bring him out.
Yeah. Okay. That's boring.
I know.
It's like a Vegas chiller.
Yeah, exactly. Vegas chiller. So, what else, Fred? I mean, what else has intrigued your mind lately? That because look at, there's so much that you're intrigued by, but is there something that you're just like, okay, look at, I want to know more.
Yeah, I mean, there's I mean, it's UFO cases. I know it sounds boring because at the moment it's the only thing I really dig. I'm looking into like 3 older cases at the moment. In 2 of them, I'm trying to locate witnesses and relative to witnesses, so relatives. Because I want to hear them talk about it, because at the moment I've just read about it, and I need to, go more closer to the source. There's one case which I love. Was in 1983. You have this middle-aged woman, Siv. She's in her summer cabin with her son. Her husband has gone to work. And she wakes up 5 minutes past 2, and she sensed that the whole house is so bright. It's so lit up, So she looked out the window and she sees this glowing UFO, maybe 50 meters away, rotating. And she see these kind of spiderish legs coming out from the side, from around the edges, like landing gears, but she described them as spider legs. And it lands in a meadow. And she's so scared, she goes and hides in bed, and because she felt like maybe these beings, if there's beings there, they will come to her. She was so scared. Not actually 2 hours earlier, a neighbor of hers came home and saw a bright glowing humanoid standing in front of her house, and she stood there for an hour looking at this thing. She got paralyzed. Yeah. So first of all, are these 2 connected? Because the humanoid thing was 2 hours earlier. I've located the landing site. Should be possible to take a look at now, because they said it was an impression in the ground about 8 times, 8 meters in diameter. So something landed there. I think there was burn marks, etc. I doubt you will see something now, so many years afterwards, but I would love to go to that place and take a look at it. There's another case from 1958 where a man saw a tiny humanoid. He chased the humanoid to a UFO, and the UFO flew up, and he found imprints that were 30 centimeters deep, impressions that's 30 centimeters deep, which is quite much, I would say. And I'm curious if these marks still are there,
Oh, yeah.
50, 60 when did that take place?
It was in 1958, so a long time ago. But I located the farm. I talked with the owner. We have compared maps, because the witness wrote the map, so we can see. The UFO should be kind of behind her house now. The landing site. So I'm very, very intrigued by some of these older cases where it's possible to visit the location, and so hopefully I will have some time this summer to go to travel a little bit longer and see if I can find something, or at least be there and experience it.
That is so cool. Adopt me, please.
Yeah,
I want to go with
you. We need to buy tickets to fly over to Sweden as Fred's doing this.
Yeah. Do you have a driver's license?
Hold on, you're only 6 hours ahead of us. Don't worry. We'll catch up.
No problem.
So, what do you have on the go here, Fred? Are you still working on the TV show?
Yeah, we just started to shoot season 6.
Yeah.
Of Spökjakt, and it's going, of course, very well. We shot season 5 during the autumn here and winter. It was totally all locations in the UK, from England up to Scotland and Ireland and Wales, and we've been in all parts, or the team has been.
Yeah.
So there's one more season we're doing now, which will be pretty unique compared to the other seasons, at least.
Yeah.
I can't say so much yet, if there's any Swedish listeners here. So
I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah, so
they know you're here.
So yeah, it's a lot of focus on that, and I'm like I mentioned earlier, in hopefully a month the book is out, Northern Lights: High Strangeness in Sweden, and I hope people will like it.
Well,
I
keep us up to date with that, because I'll be buying it.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
Sure.
I hope. I don't want to sound greedy, but I hope to sell a few copies of it at least, because I worked so hard on it. I've been
yeah.
passionate about something, and I haven't been that in a while.
Well, I look forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I really
it's a,
do.
it's a lot of woo and mumbo jumbo in it, but in connection
Yeah,
to
but
aliens.
hey, your mumbo jumbo is great. I love it. So
Your mumbo jumbo makes sense. So
yeah.
I don't know what
Oh,
you're talking
thank you,
about.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so that's
So,
basically it.
so no international locations this season, because I know you're hoping to get some international, like a few
Yeah,
locations internationally, but you weren't able to.
yeah, I can get locations everywhere, but the problem was that we had a certain plan for this season, then it changed because of logistics, basically. Um, um, uh, Sorry, I was reading at the same
Yeah,
time, so
no, yeah,
but
it's a good question. John's asking a good question,
yeah,
so I
it
figured I
is.
was. So
Um, so where were I? Anyway, if I'm starting to get tired now, it's
yeah.
close to 2 o'clock in the morning.
But
Uh,
in answer to John's question, yeah,
mm,
hey, it's a theory, and quite possible. Yes, it's quite
yeah,
possible.
yeah. I think it's quite possible. I kind of feels like if you're in the mood and have an interest for ghost is what you hopefully will see. And so if it's alien or UFOs, it kind of adapts itself to your mind. If you're a dogman or Bigfoot guy, you will see those kind of things. But of course, now I'm generalizing a
Yeah.
lot here, of course.
Well,
But
I think again, it all depends on the type of, I guess, ghost. We'll stick with ghosts. And tracings. Yeah, called co-creation theory. I mean, it depends on the type of ghost. I mean, what you the scenario that's playing before you, is it residual? Is it intelligent? What's the interaction? What's happening? It all depends. And those are the factors that you have to take into consideration. To look at, is that quite possible? Yeah, I mean, you are energy based, and are you absorbing the energy that might be there, or is the energy being absorbed by what it might be there? Is it projecting it? Who knows? I mean, there's all sorts of things. And again, this is a lot of it's theory based, because I mean, that's why it's called the unknown.
Mhm.
But anyway, sorry, Fred. I go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But what else is going on? You got the book coming out. Yeah, you've got. Can we expect more on the YouTube channel soon?
You have to wait until the summer. It needs to get warm. I
Yeah, for
really
your
need.
hikes. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking about doing something about movies, because I watch a lot of movies. Maybe something about UFO movies
Yeah.
specifically. But I need some time to sit down and do that, and I have a tendency to not plan so much when I do videos. I just start the camera and rambling on. So no, I will do my first convention this
Oh, cool.
I'm booked
Ooh.
for a thing in November. It's in Sweden. It's a mystery convention.
Oh, neat.
It kind of looks mostly like ladies selling crystals and tarot ladies, which I love. Absolutely no issue with that. Some ghost hunters, and then me. We'll see. I'm curious to see what other guests they get, because I'm one of the first.
You're going to be
Because
speaking there?
I don't know yet. I will be there with my book for sure. But I have no idea what they. Yeah, I'm not sure I would dare to stand in front of people like that live to talk. I'm not sure I could do it. It's a safe zone to be behind the camera like this.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not like acting, right, Fred?
No. This we'll see, but yeah, that's it. I mean,
That's all.
I'm a freelancer also, so when this project I'm working with now ends, I as usual don't have any job, so I need to find something else to do. It's the typical freelance life you have. So we'll see. I take it day by day, basically.
And I have your link in the show notes there. So if anybody's looking for more on Fred, uh, check the description, the show notes there. And Christian, what's going on? Like, what can we expect for the rest of the this season of Paranorm Girl?
Oh boy, all of it. I'm gonna solve the mystery. Um,
Yes.
yeah, you know how I do. I'm just going subject by subject in the entire phenomenon. So we'll talk about crop circles, men in black, crashes. I can't wait to get into that one. But yeah, I just booked my first. Well, I'm not going, but as an attendee. But first paranormal convention ever. I'm excited. It's in Oregon, end of March,
Awesome.
and I'm really excited about it. So yeah,
That'll be
same
cool.
old, same
That'll
old. Yeah.
Smith is asking. I think we did talk about this too, Fred. Did you listen to Red Ice radio back in the day?
No, I don't
No.
recognize it. No,
Okay, maybe. Okay. I remember Red Ice radio back in the day. That was a while ago. Holy crap! That was a long time.
What was that? Was it some show? I don't know. I never heard about it.
Yeah, it's I see. I got to get my bearings on it again. It's because it was back in the day when I used to listen to a lot of old podcasts and stuff. When Coast to Coast was with Art Bell, but I remember diving in deep into a rabbit hole of some of the shows that were out there. And I do remember Red Ice vaguely. I remember Red Ice radio years ago and some of the subjects that they covered. Again, a lot of what we talked about, but other stuff as well. Yeah, wow. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Well, that's neat.
The thing is,
And
I'm Swedish, so I never hear stuff like this. Go
oh
back
yeah.
10, 15 years, and we still live in innocence here in Sweden. So it's when it comes to American radio, we don't know anything.
Oh wow. Yeah, there was a lot of goodness back in the day. Back late 90s, early 2000s, into the mid 2000s, there was a lot of podcasts that were just phenomenal. Red Ice Radio was Swedish. Yeah, there you go. I didn't know that.
No,
I didn't
no, I didn't know that either because I never heard about it.
I did not know it was Swedish, but I do remember coming across it years ago. Wow. Hey Frank, how are you? Yeah, I remember coming across that years ago, but like I said, I see vaguely remember. Again, I didn't listen to it a lot, but I do remember grabbing a few episodes here and there. Wow. Like I said, there was a lot of good shows back in the day. Wow. Well, Fred, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to research Red Ice here.
I was looking into it. He's intrigued now. He's not going to bed now. He won't rest. He won't rest until he finds Red Ice Radio.
Well.
But take care, my friend.
Yes,
it's always a pleasure to have you on. And again, let us know about the book because I'll definitely grab a copy. I would love to grab a copy.
Yes.
So
yeah, me too.
And,
me too.
And sorry, we'll definitely promote it here for you as well. Like I mean, for sure, Fred.
Yes.
uh,
Well, it was awesome to talk with you two guys. It was I it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I feel tired, but I still feel very energized from
yeah,
this conversation.
you're talking about stuff you love talking about, Fred,
Yes, yeah,
and that's the
with the
point. So,
intelligent, smart, beautiful people like you two. So
oh.
it's
It was very nice to
uh,
speak with you, Fred. Thank you.
yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
And everybody who tuned in, watched, whatever, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Always supported, and appreciate the support. And guys, have a good weekend. It's snowing like crazy here. I think we're under about feet wise, probably 3 feet now. And continuing. It's supposed to go all night long here. So
Be
fun.
careful over there.
Oh yeah, fun stuff. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.